Times strongly pushed by our Connecticut delegation, Senator Murphy, Senator Blumenthal, Congresswoman Delauro. New Haven is having a huge impact, and it's showing in the fact that the top folks in Washington are coming to New Haven to underscore just how important this stimulus package is to our communities, and not just to bring us out of COVID, but to address the underlying issues around income inequality. I'm grateful for our partnership, the folks that are standing behind me, to lead us at this moment when our nation is really struggling. And I'm going to hand it over next to Congresswoman Delauro, is that right? So thanks everyone for being here. It's going to be an exciting day.
Thank you so much, Mayor. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you and in this community at Roberto Clemente. Here we go. Yes, guys, all right. All right, look, and we're excited and honored that we're going to be standing with the Vice President of the United States, with Kamala Harris, just in short order. And she's here today to put a spotlight on, and as we are here to put a spotlight on, is the American Rescue Plan, because in fact, help is here for the people of our community, people of our state, and all over the country. Mayor, to you, let me just say thank you for your leadership over the past year. You have led New Haven through the pandemic and through some monumental challenges. My colleagues in the Congress, my partners in the Congress, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, and we worked together, in fact, so that we could pass in both the House and the Senate an American Rescue Plan and have the President sign it. So we've got presidential leadership, strength in the Congress, local strength, and the urgency of the pandemic that demands action. We're all looking forward to welcoming the Vice President today. Look, we know what's happened to our families, and the reason why the Vice President is here, the President and the Vice President are on a tour all over the country to say to people that help is here. They walk in people's shoes. They understand what is going on in their lives, and that people have seen, you know, economic hardship, health hardship, with the thousands and millions of people who have been tested positive in this country, and understanding the plight of poor, working, middle-class families. And that's where they directed the American Rescue Program. $1,400 per person payments, unemployment benefits, relief to pay the rent, to buy food and health care, state and local funding, so that we can make sure that the mayor can keep this police force, can keep the firemen there, the teachers there, etc. And it is a day to highlight, my view, two very special efforts. And one is the child tax credit and its expansion that will work for working, poor, and middle-class families, lifting 1/2 of children in this country out of poverty. And in our state of Connecticut, 1/3 of kids will be lifted out of poverty, 1/2 out of deep poverty. And it is really extraordinary with that expansion, and what a lifeline it is to the people of this state and of our community here. The increased investment in child care, $50 billion to stabilize the child care industry. And women have been the victims. They're not opting out of the workforce, they're being pushed out of the workforce, because over the 5 million women who have lost their jobs, a major reason for that, the major reason is the lack of child care in this country. And we're doing that, and I noticed that the governor made some announcements about child care as well this morning. So here we are. It is a great day, and for the President and Vice President, with her presence here, recognizing the state of Connecticut and our cities, in fact, that it is a recognition that they know what is happening here, what we are doing. And so I just say, I will end with where I started, which is help is here, my friends. Thank you. Thank you. Now, who's going? Richard Blumenthal, Senator Blumenthal, go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we trade off our order of talking. I'm not sure who is supposed to go first. And Senator Murphy and I can practically finish each other's sentences, not quite, but what we are is a team, and I think today is a tribute to the team that our delegation is. We're smaller than California, but we fight above our weight. And that's because we are united. I want to thank the mayor for his leadership, especially on the issue of equity. And I want to especially thank Rosa Delauro. You know, this day is a real milestone. It's historic. We're welcoming the Vice President and celebrating the American Rescue Act, but we're also celebrating the triumph of an idea, the child tax credit, an idea that Rosa Delauro has championed, literally, as a voice and a vote through years and years, and now brought to this point where it will lift out of poverty half the children in Connecticut, 608,000 children who are in poverty. That is a historic accomplishment, and it shows that government can work. Yes, government can work. You know, this American Rescue Plan is like a schoolhouse rock lesson, a civics textbook. The president proposes a $2 trillion plan. There's opposition to it, but Congress comes through, and now it's making a difference in people's lives. It has having a real impact. And it's not just the child tax credit. It's putting money in people's pockets, putting vaccine in their arms, putting kids back to school safely, conquering the pandemic, putting America back to work. There are real life consequences to this historic step. And I'm excited to welcome Vice President Harris here so she can see for herself in Connecticut why we are in the forefront of the nation in vaccinating and putting kids back in school and putting people back to work. Why we are making government work even better. And we ought to celebrate. But we also ought to know that there is no room for complacency. We still have a ways to go. We still need to wear masks, to hand wash, to physical distance, and to do what the governor is announcing, an initiative in childcare. And I just want to say that we're particularly proud to be hosting the Vice President to talk about childcare and how it will enable women to go back to work. Particularly, they've been displaced and unemployed at a much higher rate, and now working parents will be able to go back to work, and that will make an enormous difference. And I just want to finish on this note. I'm also going to be talking to the Vice President privately about gun violence. I spoke this morning to Kristen's song. You'll remember Kristen and Mike song of Guilford lost their son Ethan in a tragic shooting in a neighbor's house as a result of a gun stored unsafely. And I'll be conveying to Vice President Harris Kristen's gratitude for the continued leadership of this administration on gun violence and the need to continue this fight on gun violence, because one of the leading causes of children's death in America is gun violence. So in providing child care, great. In the child tax credit, great. Putting kids back to school, great. But we need to keep in mind the continued work on public health, a public health epidemic, gun violence. And so we are celebrating today. We're proud and excited to welcome the Vice President, my seatmate on the floor of the United States Senate. We spent hours and hours together during the first impeachment trial, exchanging notes, whispering about what was going on. I'm not going to divulge any of the confidences. We sat nearly next to each other on the Judiciary Committee, working on justice and policing and so forth. So she has spent a lot of time working with us, and we're very proud and excited now to welcome her back and to have the opportunity to continue our work together.
Thanks a lot, Dick. Thanks, Mayor, for bringing us together. Thank you, Rosa, for your tremendous work. It's really exciting that the Vice President has chosen New Haven as one of her first stops since taking office. And I don't think there's any secret as to why we're getting a little bit extra attention. It's pretty good to have the Appropriations Chairwoman be from New Haven. Listen, let me just underscore what Dick said. The American Rescue Plan is just a game changer for the kids who go to school just a few feet from us here. Families are suffering here in New Haven. Whether you're out of work or have had your hours cut back, most of the families who live in this neighborhood are having a lot of trouble putting food on the table, paying their rent, making sure that their kids have somewhere safe to go this summer. If you are a family of 4 living in this neighborhood, it is likely that the American Rescue Plan is going to increase your income this year by $7,600, right? That is life-changing for families in this neighborhood. And guess where that money is going to go? Right back into this neighborhood, right? The American Rescue Plan is about saving families, but it's also about saving small businesses, right? It's about making sure that when we put money into the ground floor of the economy, into families with children, right, who are making less than $50,000 or $60,000 a year, that money goes right back into communities like this. And so what makes me so excited about having the Vice President come here is that she's going to be able to see firsthand the virtuous cycle that's going to be set off by the American Rescue Plan. She's going to be able to talk to families about how that money is going to be spent right here in this community. Listen, this has been Rosa's life work to increase the child tax credit because she knew it would lift kids out of poverty, but she also knew how much of a benefit it would be to her community of New Haven. And I just can't wait to be able to show the Vice President how impactful this money is going to be. Second, I want her to see that this money is going to be well spent here in Connecticut. The governor's announcing a really bold and important partnership with child care centers today. Wouldn't be possible without the American Rescue Plan. The governor has put together a new organization called Accelerate CT, which is bringing educational stakeholders together so that we can make sure that the $1 billion coming to Connecticut to help open our schools safety and make sure our kids make up for learning loss is going to be spent effectively. We are going to be creative and bold in the way that we spend these dollars to make sure that we lift kids up in the short term and in the long run. And so I can't wait to be able to show my friend, the Vice President, how we're going to make good use of the dollars that are being sent to Connecticut. So this is a really exciting day for us here. I'm really grateful to Chairwoman Delauro for really sticking with the fight to expand the child tax credit, even when there were dark days when folks didn't think it would happen. We're going to obviously fight to make that provision permanent because people are going to see what a difference it makes in the lives of kids and families over the course of the next year. So what a great day for New Haven, what a great day for Connecticut. Really excited to be able to be a small part of it. Be happy to take a few questions. Questions?
The reduction in childhood poverty is a huge success. It will be an equally huge failure if this turns out to be a one-year temporary thing.
It's not going to be a one-year temporary thing. And you heard my colleagues You've talked. The Speaker of the House has talked about it being permanent. The President, in response to a question at a Democratic caucus retreat just a few weeks ago, when asked about permanence, and wants to move to make it permanent. The chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Richard Neal, our colleague in Massachusetts, the Tax Writing Committee is committed to making it permanent. We are very excited about where we are now. But you heard Chris, you heard Dick. It is going to be permanent. I believe that because, in fact, of the difference that it will make. And often, I think this was Richie Neal who said to me, Rosa, he said it's harder to take something out of the tax code than it is to put back into the tax code. So we're going to get there.
Why is it, other than the fact that your party has a majority, but obviously the Senate is not super majority, what has changed? What has changed in the political dynamic about this issue that you think you now can make this permanent?
Yeah, well, I think there's look, first of all, times change. It's been an 18-year battle to do this. Times change, environment changes, the players change. You know, not only several years ago, nobody was talking about a child tax credit. They thought that this was on the fringe, etc. Now it is the center of public discourse. I also believe that the pandemic has shone a light on the health disparities and inequities we had, but the economic disparities and inequities that we have. And I think we've tried to get this into each one of the relief packages starting at the outset. And then we tried to do it with the HEROES bill, and we were told that we couldn't get it at that time through the Senate. We wouldn't get the President to sign it. Well, you know, times have changed, and that's why and this president, in part of his tax policy during the campaign, talked about it being permanent. The environment has changed. The pandemic shone a light on the inequities, which make it all the more powerful for us to be able to move forward and to try to get this accomplished.
And let me just let me just hold on. Let me just object to a bit of the premise of the question, which is that I want this to be permanent. I think it's going to be made permanent, but it's not a failure if it's only implemented for a year, because families are hurting in unprecedented ways right now. So I don't think there's a family in New Haven that would refuse the money if they were told that it was only going to be for this year. So agree that there is momentum building to make this permanent. It's a priority to make this permanent, but the money right now, when so many people can't pay their bills, is worth it in and of itself.
Let me just add something before. Well, let me just answer that question, Susan, and also Mark's question, by saying already the American Rescue Plan, including the tax credit, is wildly and deeply popular among the American people. This idea may not be bipartisan in the Congress, but it's very bipartisan among the American people. And I think it is because we've been through such a year of heartbreak and hardship. I think it has shone a light on how deeply painful this year has been for everybody, but particularly for those children in poverty. 608,000 children in the state of Connecticut. Think of it for a moment. We're a state of 3.5 million people. 608,000 of those people, children, are going to be helped by this idea, the child tax credit. Why not make it permanent? Why not make permanent additional child care? Make insurance, unemployment insurance, triggered by unemployment. Make aid to education, $1.1 billion coming to Connecticut. I hope the next step will be a major infrastructure program. That's what the next step will be. A major infrastructure program. We know roads, bridges, rail, ports, airports, broadband, VA, but also our human capital. Again, childcare and schools, the bridges that bring us together in emotional and social learning, the highways of the mind, so that community colleges can be made tuition free. I think what we're seeing is visionary but very stable, mature leadership that will make possible a new infrastructure program that is the next step of this administration, and we need to look forward to it. No, the President of the United States is passionately and clearly committed to gun violence legislation. And Vice President Harris, sitting next to me on the floor of the United States Senate, has spoken about it publicly there and since then and during the campaign. And yesterday's news conference, I think, reaffirmed very clearly and passionately the President's commitment on this issue. We will see a vote. You're going to see a vote on the floor of the United States Senate, at least one, maybe more, on gun violence legislation. And Senator Murphy and I are going to be there right at the tip of the spear.
Well, let me just. So, no, I think there's no question that the President and Vice President are absolutely committed to pushing a vote in the Senate on legislation passed by the House to expand background checks. But honestly, we need some time. We don't want to put a bill on the floor that can't pass. And so we're going to need some time to try to work out a piece of legislation that boldly expands background checks, that gives states a better shot at enacting emergency risk protection orders that can pass. So we need some time to get that done.
What else has changed other than the fact that Democrats now have the majority? I mean, you were very instrumental when President Obama became elected, and the fervor was there to pass gun legislation.
On guns?
What's changed?
Well, I mean, the anti-gun violence movement is stronger than it was 5 years ago, and the gun lobby is a shell of itself. So the politics have fundamentally changed. In the House of Representatives, you couldn't get a background checks bill considered years ago, and guess what happened? A whole bunch of NRA A-rated members of the House lost their races, and they were replaced by supporters of universal background checks. So the voters made a decision that they wanted Congress to take up issues like universal background checks, and we're going to honor their wishes. That's what's changed. And listen, we got to put a bill on the floor of the Senate. We're going to work really hard with our Republican colleagues to get them to work with us. But, if they choose to sit on the outside and not negotiate, we're not going to protect them from a vote. I think it'll be hard for a lot of Republicans to vote no on a reasonable background checks expansion if we put it on the floor.
I'll tell you something else has changed, and I mentioned it earlier. What's changed is Christian and Mike's song. What's changed is March for Our Lives, Orlando. All around the country, people have been touched by this issue. Charleston, President Obama singing Amazing Grace. America is now mobilized, and that's the reason why a new Congress was elected in 2018 with members who purposefully campaigned on this issue, and a President of the United States who is passionately committed on it, and a Vice President who has been a champion. So I think that what's changed is a grassroots movement with advocates, survivors, activists who are helping raise awareness and move America forward.
Where will the money directly go to inner city youth. We work with youth on the daily basis, and the gun violence here is crazy. Senator Delauro, she's been working on it for years, but we always hear good stories and good plans, but the money never comes to where it's really needed, which is the inner city, like the Boys and Girls Club here, and smaller organizations trying to get off the ground. We need help, and we need help now.
Well, the money from the American Rescue Plan is singularly focused on looking at the poor, middle income, working families. And that is where it is going to get down. It has not happened before. We have had 4 years where we've seen the richest 1/10 of 1% of the people in this country have made out very well with their tax cut. We are now seeing, when you take a look at the benefits in this plan, you will take a look at increase in food stamps, rent assistance, lowering the premiums for health care. We talked about the child tax credit, stabilizing education. This school, Roberto Clemente.
Senator Delauro, that's great, but school is about to be out. We need places and programs for children.
That's right,
They
and
can't be on the corner. They can't be.
but hold on for 1 second. And what money is in there? And I look to Senator Murphy because he's been working on a school enrichment program. We got money on school enrichment program for the summer. We got money in the program, I think it's $1.5 billion or $2.5 billion for after school programs for kids, specifically so that we could focus and target those dollars into our communities to reach them, which is one of the reasons why the Vice President is here today to talk about where these dollars are going and who is going to benefit from them. So, you know, they've been there 67 days. 67 days, my friends, and you're looking at something historic that has been passed.
We really pray that everything that y'all doing is. And,
We're gonna pray with you, but we're gonna make it happen.
because
Okay?
our vote got you guys where you are.
You got it. Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right.
I'm gonna head.
Yeah, and then we got to run.
Speaking on the topic of looking at these shelters and stuff like that, where you know you put somebody in a bed, and the first thing 6 o'clock in the morning, you're kicking them out. You're not giving these people no kind of incentive to wake
Why don't we we'll
Talk to you individually.
We'll talk to you about it individually. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. All right. Hey.
Excuse me, Mr. Blumenthal. What are some of the other resources they got to help the homeless people in the community?
Rental assistance.
Because it seems